A very warm welcome. You're watching World 360. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. Now, Donald Trump's second term as President of the United States marks the start of a new Trumpian era, one defined by his authoritarian leadership focused on the sole agenda of America First. Now, foreign policy analysts expect that Mr. Trump will continue to embody the image of being a disruptor. Expect the international legal order to undergo substantial changes. As a leading global power of our time, the United States' influence is evident across various areas of international law, including climate change law, space law, human rights law, and trade and investment law. But in the early days of his second presidency, Trump has already brought a jarring shift to the White House, be it the executive orders or the looming threat of tariffs. The 47th president has taken an aggressive posture in attempting to remake the government and reshape the geopolitical landscape. Before we deep dive into the new Trumpian era, let's look at the headlines first. At the World Economic Forum, US President Donald Trump offers business leaders low taxes for manufacturing products in the US while threatening them with tariffs if they don't. While refraining from acting on his threat to slap hefty tariffs on China, Trump says the two countries could have a very good relationship and reportedly expressed interest in visiting the Chinese capital soon. A US federal judge has temporarily blocked President Donald Trump's executive order ending the constitutional guarantee of birthright citizenship regardless of the parent's immigration status. And Thailand's become the first country in Southeast Asia to legalize same-sex marriages as thousands of LGBTQ+ couples got married after the announcement. Now, President Donald Trump began his second term with a flurry of executive actions aimed at overhauling immigration into the United States. He has signed orders declaring a national emergency at the southern border and announced the deployment of more troops to the area while vowing to deport criminal aliens, moves that have spread fear across several communities in the United States. Trump's seeming indifference to the legal challenges could suggest he's prepared for a prolonged fight, but the human cost of his agenda is becoming ever more visible. The question remains, how long will this humanitarian crisis continue? And what are the long-term effects on migrants, the communities along the border, and US-Mexico relations? We bring you more.
Están haciendo retenes, van a empezar con San Diego y de ahí se van a pasar a Colorado. Ahorita está muy difícil.
When I have to turn myself into immigration in a legal way, it feels unfair that they are going to take away my legal passage, even though I know and understand that President Donald Trump is coming with strong measures.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
I, Donald John Trump.
Within 24 hours of taking charge, US President Donald Trump singled out his first target, illegal immigrants. As he took the oath of office, the CBP One app, which helped over 1 million migrants legally seek asylum in the US, shut down. Trump then declared a national emergency in the US-Mexico border, marking the beginning of his sweeping immigration crackdown.
First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country.
Trump revived the Remain in Mexico program, which forced asylum seekers to stay in Mexico until their cases were heard. Desperate migrants braved the bitter cold, hoping that the CBP One app would start working again and that cancelled interviews would be rescheduled. approximately 270,000 migrants are waiting on the Mexican side of the border, hoping to enter the US. On Trump's orders, 1,500 additional troops were deployed to the US-Mexico border to address the growing immigration crisis. US Immigration and Customs Enforcement conducted raids in various migrant communities, making many arrests. Trump's border enforcement chief, Tom Homan, claimed that 308 arrests were made across the country. Congress also granted Trump the power to detain immigrants living in the US illegally who are accused of theft. As days pass, Trump continues to tighten his grip on illegal immigration, fueling fears of mass deportations. The US's rich economy, numerous opportunities, and comfortable way of living lured people to pursue the American dream. Under the Biden administration, the CBP One app allowed migrants to legally enter the country, but a significant number of illegal immigrants still arrived. The newly elected president has made immigration a top priority, aiming to stop the illegal influx, control the chaotic flow of asylum seekers, curb violence inflicted by immigrants, and reduce the strain on jobs. This isn't the first time Trump has tried to protect the US from illegal immigration. During his first term as president, Trump tried to build a wall to keep immigrants out. After imposing a ban on refugee travel and processing, Trump also expanded immigration officers' powers to deport migrants who cannot prove that they have been in the US for longer than 2 years. Previously, officers could only detain undocumented migrants within 100 miles of the country's international borders. Trump's new immigration agenda gives officials the authority to arrest immigrants anywhere in the US. He also suspended the US refugee admissions program, stating that immigrants were absorbing resources meant for American citizens. The Trump administration also threatened officials who resisted abiding by immigration rules. State and local officials who obstruct or refuse to enforce immigration policies could face charges under federal law.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now.
Cries for Trump to halt his brutal immigration plan has gone unheard, leaving hopeful immigrants stranded at the border, separated from loved ones, and uncertain about their future. Mexico has extended a helping hand, with the president announcing that the country will shelter migrants in a humanitarian manner. With more troops at the border and waterways being blocked, Trump ensures that no stone is left unturned in his effort to prevent migrants from entering American soil. Migrants who fled their home countries due to economic hardship, gang violence, and environmental disasters are now being forced to return to their worst nightmare. Experts claim that this bold immigration agenda will face various legal challenges, but Trump seems unbothered by the chaos ahead.
I'm joined in by Theron Bond, who's a Democrat strategist. Many thanks to you, Theron, for joining in. If you heard Donald Trump's speech, there was also an attack directed towards the outgoing Biden administration for not being able to protect the country, whether it was the hurricane in North Carolina or the ongoing fires as well. He's also attacked the Biden administration for weaponizing the Justice Department. How do you weigh in on the kind of attacks that were directed towards the outgoing Biden administration?
Well, now the United States can not so proudly say that we now have a FOTUS or a felon of the United States. So I don't think now President Trump has a lot of room to discuss our justice system when he himself has manipulated it 34 times over and still yet been allowed to not only run, but win the office of the presidency. But he won. And so the reality is now he has to figure out how to move forward and actually unify this country. But his speech was very divisive. I'm not sure there were any indicators that he intends to bring people together that surpass the elite that are actually in the Capitol Rotunda with him right now. And it's very telling of how this will be for the next 4 years. And I don't know that there's room for people like me. I don't know that there are room for people that identify outside of the he, she complex. I don't know that there is room for Black and brown folks. I don't know if there are room for other people who believe different ideologies, different faiths, are in different financial or socioeconomic backgrounds, because President Trump didn't indicate that there was in his speech. And so it's very concerning that this is day one and there are 4 years worth of what we saw today that we have left to get through.
Lester, I'd like your thoughts on the speech, primarily when you look at how this was all about make America great again, how America will always be first for Donald Trump. So there was less of focus on foreign policy, because we were just discussing how there was no mention of the war in Ukraine. Yes, he did allude to the hostages, who he's of course giving a lot of credit to his own administration for bringing back. But what do you make of this speech, especially when the focus was on how to protect America's own interests?
Right. It's an excellent question. I think he was clearly focused on American strength and renewing American pride and a sense of purpose for the nation. As your earlier commentator pointed out, this may not land equally with all listeners, but President Trump is now, he's now in office, and he's going to follow through, it would appear, on the things he talked about during the campaign, which is to strengthen the United States through the various mechanisms he talked about, tariffs, sanctions on bad actors internationally, kind of a renewed sense of American purpose in the world. There were a few comments on the foreign policy front, but this was mostly about American strength and American renewal, if you will. And of course, his slogan, "Make America Great Again," was infused throughout the speech. So I think really not many surprises here.